The explosive new film, Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost, exposes secrets behind the government's takedown of General Michael Flynn.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
He told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire. They had to get rid of Flynn.
Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.
Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Tuesday. I hope it finds you well out there. The year of chaos. Man, I don't even know where to start. So many things happening each and every day out there that just leave you shaking your head like, what happened? How did we get here? Right? We got the Trump trial, another one of these trials that it really just bizarre, I guess, is the best way to explain it. We got college kids at the elite universities, protesting for Palestine. Of course, I don't know, I haven't even actually been to Palestine, but they don't really kind of have the American freedom way of thinking. But let's forget about that, right? Let's not focus on that stuff, right? I don't know. It just gets, how about NBA playoffs, right? The Denver Nuggets, got to say this right now. Are they going to win again? Probably. I will say this. They beat the Lakers after they decided not to play the first half. I don't know what happened. The Nuggets decided, okay, wait a minute, we're the Nuggets, you're the Lakers. And Jamal Murray and his antics leading the charge. LeBron missed a shot to win. You know, it's always making me feel, because I hate the Lakers. If you live in Phoenix, it's kind of like a rule that you hate the Lakers, right? We're Suns fans, and then we're fans of anybody who's playing the Lakers. And unfortunately, boy, the Suns look a lot like the Lakers. Pretty crappy. We'll see how they do today. But, yeah. That just tells you money can't buy you everything, right? 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. The one thing when you call and buy from us, you know what? It may not buy you everything. But, boy, it is nice to have some wealth insurance put away, especially as we watch what's been playing out over the last, gosh, how many years now, really, when you think about it? Runaway deficits, house of cards, idiotic Federal Reserve. Think about this. These idiots. I mean, wait a minute. I'm sorry. That's harsh. Did I say idiots? I didn't mean that. I mean, these really smart people that went to the best colleges, you know, the ones right now that got the tents out and chanting death to Israel, those ones, those really great schools have decided that, you know what, the heck with economic policies that we learned and grew up with. Why be stable? Here we gave ourselves the greatest gift of all time. We had the world's reserve currency. What a gift. And we decided, you know what, though? That's not good enough. It's not good enough. We got to have rich people be richer. And you know what? Let's face it. Do the Americans really deserve to buy a home? Do they really deserve a new car? No. Remember, Barack Obama told you, hey, you didn't create those jobs. The government did. 15 years of zero. That's economic policy. Now we got a clown sitting up there. Well, we're watching the data. We're watching it. That's awesome. Right? He's been watching it. How much longer is he going to continue to watch? By the way, new home sales. Oh, boy. Man, is it getting expensive to buy a new home in America today. Jason, I don't know if you saw it. Just a huge increase in the price of a new home. Not to mention Mortgage rates are back above 7%. I mean, it's incredible. But don't worry though, because these people that are not idiots, they're very, very smart. They're watching the data.
They're watching the data, Joe. They're watching the data. Day after day, year after year, decade after decade. They're going to watch the data. And, you said the gift of the world reserve currency. If you stop for a bit and think about it, does America really need to have the world reserve currency? I remember this in my history that the entire century, the 1800s, when America had no inflation, had no central bank for most of it, and America prospered for most of that century without the world reserve currency, Joe. No inflation. I'd take the no inflation and the no reserve currency over the gift. And you're right, it was a gift. As soon as America joined the world system, as of 1913 through the two world wars, then of course the richest blessed nation on the planet was given the world reserve currency, because the world reserve currency is usually the nation that has the economic might going in its sales, right, Joe? And I'd rather prefer the no inflation, no central bank, no reserve currency version of America, Joe.
You know what's so funny? Is that's when we became the power.
Yep.
Right? Why? Well, because everybody else had central bank and fiat money. Right? We didn't. Our currency was backed by gold. I mean, think about it. Right? You can get a fillet for like 10 cents. Right?
Our currency was gold. Our currency was gold. It wasn't just backed up by gold. Our currency was gold and silver.
And we made everything. If you made something, you got to reap the rewards for it. If you worked hard, you could live the American dream. Let me tell you right now, that thing is dead and buried, because I know thousands of people now. They're working hard and going, what? This doesn't work. Well, I know exactly who to blame is. You won't hear it on the stock market channel, though. They'll tell you that these same guys that did this to us are the ones that are going to fix it. Yeah, I think not. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Tuesday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow's up 250. I don't know why, but it is. I guess General Motors said, hey, we're still selling a lot of trucks, so that's good news for us. UPS freight is down almost 4% in the U.S., over 5% globally, but they said, hey, we fired 12,000 people, and we've raised prices enough, things are good. Procter & Gamble, sales are down. But don't worry, we've raised prices enough, things are good. So far, and it's early. I think starting tomorrow, we'll get the big bulk of the earnings seasons. But this has been the theme so far this earnings season. Pepsi, same thing. Pretty sluggish North American sales. You know what? The poor people are starting to buy BK. They're going to the generic. They can't afford the regular. But don't worry. We've raised prices enough. Everything's okay. The S&P is up 50. The Nasdaq's up 200. The 10-year note, 459. What happened? I don't know. All the data I got today, because there's two big data points, inflation's getting hotter. But okay, we'll take it. We'll take it. Crude oil's up 41 cents. Gold is off about $8 right now. I got a story about gold. I feel a lot better. You know what? On this dip buying here, we'll get to that in a minute. Silver's flat right now at 27 1/4. And I'm just going to tell you, I hope you don't sit here watching the data and waiting to make sure you put yourself in a good position. I mean, think about it, it's April. So, hey, gosh, April's almost over. 2025 is going to be here before you know it. And it's going to be a much different looking scenario than what we're seeing today. please, if you've got $50,000 or more, check out our friends over at Y-Refi. Why? Well, because you can get up to 10.25% fixed rate of return, not correlated to the stock market, the Fed, doesn't care about gold prices, silver prices. It really doesn't care about inflation either. And the best part is it's fixed. What does fixed rate mean? Well, it means it doesn't change. Right? It doesn't care about black swans, war, right? Any of that other stuff. It doesn't care. You got to get the same. You can turn your income on, turn it off. There's no fees. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. Just call them. It's the easiest thing to do. 888-YRefi24. So, Jason, as the Fed is watching the data, new home prices, the median price of a new home, it was $406,500. Okay, so that would be, like I said, the entry-level home, the average price, not the average, I'm sorry, median, because the average price is way higher than that, of homes across America. Well, that was the old price. The new price, $430,700. So almost an increase of $25,000 for the median price of a new home, Jason. And they're saying that with interest rates stuck above 7, the existing home market is almost dead on arrival, because at least with the new homes, the home builders, they can do things that you or I, if we were selling our house, can't do, right? Hey, I know the mortgage rate 7, 7.5, 8. Hey, we'll give it to you for 5 or 4. But even then, when we're looking at the price, I guess the Fed's still looking at that data as well, because remember, Janet Yellen a month ago told us somehow magically prices were going to go down.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the housing had gone up at 2021, 2022, and then kind of came back down, and it's kind of going back up. But if you look at it, it's pretty steady overall. And housing is steady in a time where, once again, the inflation's made everything much more expensive. I think housing will keep going up. I think all assets are going to keep going up. If inflation is as severe as I think it's going to get, we're going to get that next wave. Because it's hard just to stop inflation. No matter how much the Fed wants to think they can just stop it, or even if they want to. We don't even know if they actually want to. But it usually hits in a few waves, sometimes 3 waves, 4 waves. It can hit in several waves. And I think we're getting ready for the next one. And how are housing prices going to go down? If the inventory were massive and there was a ton of sellers, then the prices would come down. But that's not what we have, Joe. You have a lot of people that aren't selling, and you have an inventory which grew, like 3% year over year, which is not enough to sink those prices. So as housing goes up a little bit, well, I mean, I'm not a stock market guy, but the stock market went up, with this new wave of inflation coming in. Gold went up tremendously. All these assets are going up, and some of them are not going up because I wouldn't go in the stock market. A lot of those stocks are way overvalued. We know they are. And I think there's a tremendous amount of deflative pressure going. I really believe the inflation has to be put in. I think the Fed and those making these decisions, I think the reason we haven't seen massive inflation is because I think there's a depressive factor in these markets, and they're trying to keep it from just – I mean, I think there's a depression 2 to 3 times worse than the Great Depression that's sitting there waiting. And what they did during 2008, Joe, and the way they're just trying to stop it from happening, I think the Fed and these money masters are so proud of themselves to stop a depression that should have happened in 2008 and been over with. And how bad is it going to be, as these assets are just way overvalued, and there's way too much money in the system by we're the world reserve currency, but look at the currencies all over the world. China's printing again, right, Joe? It's a severe problem, and I think they have to have inflation to save face, Joe. And I think they're trying to make it just be not hyperinflation. We'll just keep the rates up.
Right.
Maybe maybe we'll have to go up a little bit if it gets really bad.
Right. They're praying and hoping, right? Hey, if we can Keep it, we can have that made-up super core homeless person inflation number. If we can keep that one near 3 and everything else, near 4, we can somehow say it's A-okay. But, again, we're going to watch data. Okay, well, let's look at some more data. Let's watch some more data. PMI came out today. Well, what did it say? Well, let's see. Accelerated increases in input costs. And, oh, by the way, they made a note about this. And we're not just talking about oil prices. So the manufacturers wanted you to know, hey, this isn't a gas got expensive thing. More concerningly, higher wages continues to plague them. In other words, nobody wants to come to work for $15, $16, $18, $20 an hour because they can't live. Raising their prices at a faster rate than what they had been doing already this year. Most notably, a steep rise in prices for consumer goods. Oh, I see. Oh, well, boy, that's great. Awesome. What does that mean? Well, let's see. That means that they're out there charging all the places where we go buy stuff. These guys are charging more. Pretty simple. It rose at the fastest pace in a year and a half. Excuse me? I thought we were watching data. Are we watching? Is anybody watching? Of course, I don't know. Again, how does that get us to 2%? Well, let's figure it out. Oh, wait. It doesn't get us to 2%. Flash service business activity, right? So that's kind of, we're the service economy now. Remember, we didn't want the manufacturing jobs. 5-month low. 5-month low, 50.9. Remember, 50 is flat, so barely above flat. Manufacturing PMI, 49.9. So that's just barely negative. By the way, that was a 4-month low. So, Jason, when we looked at the data points we got today, let's see, how much money would you have to make to buy a home at $436,000 and be able to pay the interest, the mortgage, the insurance, the property tax, right, the HOA, right? I mean, the list goes on and on and on. We joked about last week, my wife and I drove by a big billboard. Why rent? Homes started from the low 600s. I mean, right, what are these people talking about? And now, again, when we talk to the people that are out there in the service sector, when they're out there in the manufacturing sector, Jason, they're saying something completely different than what the Federal Reserve's been saying, which is, hey, but guys, everything's still getting more expensive, and we're starting to charge a lot more.
Yeah, and by next year, maybe people are going to be companies be hiring for $30 and $40 an hour. $600,000 home seems really ridiculous until that's like really, really cheap because inflation makes the average or the median home $800,000, right, Joe? Then suddenly $600,000 becomes the cheap home. I remember I talked about a week ago about there's some stuff coming up off the ships that's cheaper. Hey, there's stuff that's being shipped in from other countries, stuff we buy, and it's coming in a lot cheaper. And it's interesting that, we have ships crashing into bridges and wars getting heated up where you shut down. This is why I really do, Joe, think that there's a depressive pressure that's happening to the world, and they're trying to, how do you stop deflation? How do you stop a depression? You just make everything scarce. Make it scarce. You blow up the pipeline between Russia and Germany, right? You do all these things because, the Federal Reserve and their rich buddies can't make money in a depression, in a really bad recession. It's hard to make money there. And if you're loaded full of assets, well, your asset prices go down. It starts to even the playing field with those that have less. And so, Joe, we've talked about how many businesses are selling less stuff. They're having less business, but then there's still profits coming in. Well, a profit, How does inflation skew the profits? Yeah, you're selling stuff for $8 for an item that used to be $4. You sell half as much. Yeah, you might scrape out a 3% profit there if you sell a couple extra, right? That's inflation. That's not a profit. It just skews everything. And so people really need to wake up. The Fed will not have a depression. They will do everything they can to stop that. And inflation, even though that's like one of their main goals is to stop it, well, I think they're going to be very happy with 7, 8, 9% inflation in real terms, 10%, 11, 12%, which their numbers will show, 4, 5, or 6, right, Joe?
Yeah, and then how about this one? This is where we're at now. Walmart. They're the majority owner of a startup called One. One is essentially you can't afford to buy the stuff at Walmart, but we're going to let you buy now, pay later, coming to Walmarts all across the country as the retailer starts its rollout. And Jason, they're just, again, this is just becoming commonplace now. Hey, you need this big screen TV, and it's $600, $500. Hey, don't worry. Give us $100 and we'll charge you a little bit of interest on this stuff. So it's kind of like Walmart's turning into Rent-A-Center. Pretty soon, listen, some people are doing this for food. For food. The annual interest rate, I love this. There's a range. There's a range on this. Yes. 10 to 36% on this stuff from Walmart. And I'm just thinking about, everyone, they got mad at all these payday lenders for charging all this interest, but it's okay if they do. What's 36% amongst friends? Yes. They said that the rollout will hopefully be completed at all stores by Christmas. Yeah. Buy now, pay later. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Tuesday. So yesterday we had that big sell-off in gold. If you saw gold last night, it was down pretty big. It's come back pretty much. It's down $4 or $5. But it was kind of what made it interesting for me. It was happening in Asia, which is normally what we were seeing the opposite. It took a little digging, but now it kind of makes a little more sense. First of all, it's a good thing. We can't have gold go straight up all the time, but China raised margin requirements going into Monday. So from 10%. So for people that buy paper stuff, you can buy, a gold contract. You can buy a 100-ounce gold contract in China. You only got to put 10% down to control. So you got to, put 10 ounces down, essentially pay for 10 ounces to control 100. Well, they raised it to 12. Not a huge thing. But obviously, here's what I think happened. China wants to buy more gold, set it up, make sure the price falls, and stepped in and bought. That's my belief. But it's something that makes a lot of sense because, you're reading these ridiculous, it's about the war with Israel and Iran's cooling off and this and that. That didn't affect gold. Gold didn't really move either way on those things. It was going to if it had expanded. But just something of note. You got to watch those things, and it's a good opportunity. But like we told you, when the price goes down, don't expect the premiums to go down with them, and that's what happened this morning. Right? There's no change in the gold price, even with gold when gold was down at 2,300. Nope, no change. Right, and those are the things that we are warning you about. Even with the pullbacks, you don't benefit that greatly especially when the premiums were so close. But we'll get to that a little later. But it's just something of note. It's a good way to force some stuff. A lot of you will remember when silver was $50. Do you guys remember that? For like, I don't know, half a second, it got to the $50, and then the COMEX changed the margin requirements, and didn't let you buy any contracts. So all you could do was sell it. Silverfeld lock limit 3 days in a row. Kind of like that. This was a staged, hey, let's take a little steam off the gold. That's actually a really good thing for all of us, because this is something where, like Jason and I said, we think the next move is coming in June. That's kind of what we're circling here. We're going to stay, in this 2,300 range, I think, anyway, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then we're expecting the next leg to start. But do you remember last week when I was talking to you guys about there was that meeting with Janet Yellen and the Japanese and the Koreans, the South Koreans, about the need for currency intervention? So Japan right now says if the yen goes above 155, they're going to sell. So it's been like 154.7, 154.8, and they're trying everything in their power to not get it to where they have to intervene, but it's coming. I hadn't heard a word about South Korea. I don't follow the currency there, but a story broke yesterday afternoon. T. Rowe Price and Nomura Holdings have both come out to say they have big concerns about stress in the shadow loans with exposure emanating from South Korea. The delinquency rates of Korean lenders has now surged to 6.5%. So that's like double where we're at right now. And they're saying that Citigroup says $80 billion of finance debt is troubled. Korea's shadow banking to real estate record rose to a record last year. It's 4 times higher than it was a decade ago. And now, Jason, there's talk that it doesn't matter where, and this is the problem. It doesn't matter if it's South Korea. It doesn't matter if it's Japan. It doesn't matter if it's one of our banks here at home. Once again, problems in shadow banking. And why should we be surprised? All of these central banks decided to put rates at 0 and leave them there for a decade and a half. What did they really think was going to happen?
Right. I mean, nobody thought Lehman Brothers was going to fail, and then it did, right? I mean, any of these banks can fail. And once a few of them start to go, I know that we have these big banks, these 5 or 6 really big banks, and those are never going to go away. Well, you just don't know, right, Joe? This is a consolidation. This kind of action you're talking about can contaminate way up the chain, and Lehman Brothers was getting a little greedier than the other big banks, right? And so they just let it go. These banks, it's a club, and if you don't play in the rules that they're using, you get flattened hard. And these medium-sized banks, these small banks, Joe, they do what the bigger banks tell them. I can see it. I can see you're working at one of these medium-sized banks. Like, what are we going to do? There J.P. Morgan said do this, and that. The big guys over there, they're saying we should do that. Well, of course they let that information out. They put you in a weak position. And I think a lot of these banks, Joe, are in a massively weak position from bad choices, not thinking for themselves. And I think a lot of these companies, CEOs for all these companies and these banks, they don't make any informed decisions. They're not doing the work necessary to figure out what's going on. They don't listen to a show like this or try to actually prepare to sound halfway intelligent about what they're talking about. They just do what all the other guys tell them to do. It's very weak, and this is why you're always in a better position if you think for yourself, Joe. You got to make decisions based off the information you gather. And these banks are weak. They've been weak for a long time. It's musical chairs, and when the music stops, how many of them are not going to have a chair to sit on?
Yeah, T. Rowe Price, what's happening in Korea is probably a microcosm of what could be happening elsewhere. It has us concerned. And again, same thing. Why? Why is this happening? Well, Korea raised interest rates, right? Now all of a sudden, there's a big problem. It's the exact same story playing out all over the world. So it really does paint a light here. the amount of people, Peter Schiff, one of those guys who keeps saying, get ready for the dollar sell-off because it's going to come, because they know, especially looking at Asia, they can't sell U.S. debt fast enough. Japan and South Korea now, both of them are saying, hey, listen, it's just a matter of time. Is it a week? Is it a month? Right? Is it 45 days, 60 days? But very soon here, we're going to be selling dollars because we have to sell dollars in order to prevent another crisis. And it's one of those things why Jason and I keep saying, hey, we think June, looking at that June-July time frame, we're going to see another move in the gold price. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Today's special U.S. $10 Liberties. So these are the pre-1933. Everyone has an opinion. What gold should I buy? Costco selling gold bars and silver bars and Krugerrands or Maple Leafs. A lot of people are like, I just want the cheapest thing that I can get. Well, we're a little different here. We don't get me wrong. We want you to buy at the lowest price possible, but where you can be private. What does that mean? Well, simple. You can buy it, sell it, trade it, whatever you choose. You don't have to be 1099. I don't need your driver's license and your social security number. I don't need to call my accountant. Your accountant doesn't need to, I need a 1099 for that. No, you don't. No. If you're selling back more than $10,000 of bullion, you do. Right? Bars, Krugerrands, and Maple Leafs, and I don't know, whatever else. I've got a big poster in my office here in Phoenix, and it shows all the stuff you can put in a precious metals IRA. There's only one thing not in there. Pre-1933 U.S. gold. Why? Because the government classified it as a collectible. Well, what does that mean? Well, it allows you to stay private no matter what you do. So that's why we like them. This is the half-ounce piece. $10 Liberty, 1866 to 1907. 1 through 19, $1,250. $1,250. 20 or more, $1,240. So that means you buy 20 or more, you're paying $2,480. And right now you got gold at $2,320. So it's a really still really good. Close to spot premium still available, even though the price has gotten a little softer. The premiums, they didn't come down with them, but still a great opportunity here, Jason, on $10 gold pieces, half-ounce gold pieces, 1 through 9 at $1,250, 20 or more at $1,240, at 800-951-0592 as we're kind of in what we call breather right now, right? Gold, silver taking a little breather as we're getting ready for the next run.
Yeah, if you're one of those guys that just put a little bit away at a time, the next starting now into the next 6 to 8 weeks, as Joe said earlier, this is a great time to keep putting it away. It's always a good time to put it away. I know there's a lot of people out there that's like, man, I should have bought it 8 weeks ago. Yeah, on Valentine's Day, gold had sat around $2,004. There's no reason to sit there and sulk about where silver and gold prices have gone from. Because I could sit there, Joe, and say, man, I wish I would have bought mine when it was $300 back in 2002, right? I would love to have picked up an ounce of gold back then, right? How much was a $10 lib back then? $150? Yeah, I would have loved to have done that, but that's behind. And what you need to look at is what is gold going to be doing. And I think you were just given a big, huge warning at the beginning of 2024, which is gold just blasted off with no end in sight. And finally, okay, the end of that run apparently has stopped the last couple of weeks. Gold is sitting around $2,300. Get a $10 Liberty at $12.50. It's going to be a bargain not too long into the future, Joe. We will not see prices like these for a while. We say it all the time, but things can move very quickly. 2024, 2025. If you're going to get into gold and silver, the sooner the better. It's always going to be the sooner the better.
Well, here's the thing. Another $100 billion on the debt pile. The need for coordination now. We cannot have Japan, South Korea, China, all dumping treasuries all at once. They can't. The markets can't take it. They've got to figure out. Okay, how much can we really afford to do, right, before something breaks in these debt markets? And I'll just say this: the reckless spending from government. It's an abomination. It's an embarrassment. How fast did it change? We went for a brief time. What was it? Maybe 10 years. Oh, we can't do this to our children and our grandchildren, and we need a budget. We need to balance the budget. Would that last 5-6 years? Right? Alan Green. Oh, we're going to have the whole debt paid off by 2010. Well. Now Bank of America says we're probably going to be at $40 trillion before 2025 is over. And now all of a sudden we have to have behind closed door emergency meetings with other countries to say, hey, wait a minute, let's coordinate how we're going to sell this stuff. Jason, it just tells you how saturated the U.S. debt market really is. I mean, how many more bad debt auctions do I have to tell people about before they wake up and realize what's happening?
Yeah, we talked about it yesterday, didn't we, Joe, that a quarter-point rate hike or a quarter-point rate reduction on $100 trillion is $250 billion, right? We have a national debt of $35 trillion, right? And I think you said it many times recently about, 15 years ago it was bad. 20 years, 30 years ago, it wasn't hardly nothing, right? But now a quarter point's it's amazing.
15 years ago, I was telling people 1 point is $250 billion. Right? Now we're talking about, a quarter of a point. Before too long, it's going to be $250 billion. Right now, a half of a point is $250 billion, period. And guess what? Wait a few more years, because it'll be more. It's Radio News Hour. Yeah. Get that gold put away. 800-951-0592, $10 Liberty gold pieces. 1 through 19, $12.50. 20 or more, $12.40 at 800-951-0592. I'm going to just read to you quotes from Bank of America and Bloomberg this week. The biggest piece of M&A, right, mergers and acquisitions, in the past 12 months was the merger of the Treasury and the Fed, according to Bank of America. Bloomberg saying that monetary and fiscal policy in the U.S. is becoming more intertwined as the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, implicitly or otherwise, increasingly coordinate their actions. What have we been talking about today? That is a structural negative for U.S. Treasuries and signals the end to the long underperformance of commodities and other real assets. Are you paying attention? Listen, I know there's a Donald Trump trial. I get it. It's the NBA playoffs. Does anyone watch that? I don't know. Maybe. If your team's in it, you do. Guys, wake up here. You have to understand what's happening. The biggest market in the world is starting to buckle. Remember how I started the show off? We had a gift, and we gave it away. Why do you think there's, 20 more countries that want to join BRICS? right? Every major commodity part of the world seemingly wants to go into the BRICS. How about this? At the same time, Bank of America, entrenched inflation is bad for fixed income, right? Bad for treasuries. It's also another positive for real assets, such as commodities. They have relentlessly underperformed financial assets over the last 4 decades, and that is going to come to an end. Right? So we go back to 1980. From 1980, right, to really the last handful of years, right? I mean, from 1980 to 2000, those 20 years, gold went from 800 to 250. It's gone from 250 to 2,300 and change, and they're telling you, that's a depressed price. That's a depressed price. And real assets are going to be where you want to be. I don't know. We can't say any more than that, right, Jason? I mean, it's really, it's simple. It's not even complicated. It's easy math.
Yeah, if you have the means, it's unintelligent not to be putting some, if not a lot of it, into metals right now. I mean, I was just checking, even though gold and silver kind of came down on Monday, copper just kept running. This commodity run, which is what this is, not just a silver and gold run. It's a commodity run. Yeah, that 1982 or older penny that's in your pocket, it's got 3 cents worth of copper in it now. It's hitting 3 cents worth of copper, right?
$10 liberties. Do yourself a favor. 1 through 19, $12.50, 20 or more, $12.40. 800-951-0592.
3-star General Michael J. Flynn, head of the Pentagon Intelligence Agency, knew all the government's dirty secrets.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
Flynn knew what the intel world had been up to. He understood its funding.
He ordered the first audit of the use of contractors. This set off alarm bells.
The explosive new documentary, Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost, uncovers the facts behind this scandal.
Flynn told the truth. He was the most dangerous person for Donald Trump to hire.
I find out the worst enemy that I'm going to face in my life is right here in America. They took my assessment and they wanted me to change it. And I was like, I'm not changing it.
They had to get rid of Flynn.
With in-depth interviews, archival footage, and never-before-seen personal records of the man behind the headlines.
I just felt like I was drowning.
Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. Available now. Watch it today. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com.